Hello, and welcome to the Connect podcast. This show is all about helping you connect to your soul's calling so you can take action on it. Because the sweetest success is a blend of discovering your purpose with the inner drive to bring it to life. I'm Sheila Botello, health coach, lifestyle entrepreneur, and mom of two, best known for my online wellness programs, mentoring, and self-love passion. Listen in for inspiring interviews, solo chats, and Q&A sessions that will move you past overwhelm towards what lights you up. Stop accepting good enough and go for your version of great in your health, business, and relationships. Let's get started. Welcome back. I'm thrilled to share my first interview with you. Kim Konsten is an Akashic healer and founder and CEO of Rua Coaching. As an Akashic Records coach, she supports you in understanding your purpose, taking actions accordingly towards living a soul-aligned life. Kim and I met in an online business platform last year, and what intrigued me about her was that she was in the midst of getting ready to quit her corporate job and travel the world while building her business. In this episode, Kim shares about her childhood growing up in Africa, her lifelong dream of being a coach, and the tragic event that prompted her to go for it. She also talks about the discovery of a serious health issue that led her into trying many different healing modalities. This process uncovered a gift that she had, which now serves people in her coaching practice. Kim is a Reiki Level 2 practitioner, is crazy about sloths, loves dancing, especially Brazilian zouk, speaks 7 languages, including English, Dutch, and Spanish, and she was born in Zimbabwe, where she got her middle name, Rua, meaning flower in Shona, the local language of Zimbabwe. This interview was recorded back in June of 2020, and you'll hear how the global shutdown had her stranded happily on a beautiful island. I love this conversation so much. Here's the interview. Hi, Kim. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
You're so welcome. I'm excited to be here.
You are all the way in Cambodia right now as we're talking. I have given a description of who you are and what you do in the intro to this, but I would love to hear, first of all, before we dive into some juicy questions about why you're traveling the world and what your experience has been now during this time. It's currently June 2020 as we record this. I'd love to hear you talk about your start in coaching and being the coach of Rua Coaching, and what got you started there after your experience working at LinkedIn?
Yeah, that's a great question. Coaching actually came back from when I was about 16, 17, 18. I had this idea that I wanted to have a business and I wanted to help people. And my stepdad at the time, he was very interested in coaching. So he would always tell me stuff about, coaching and what it is. And I'm like, that sounds very interesting. So I'd never really done anything with it up until, what is it now? Yeah, 2-3 years ago, which is when my dad suddenly passed away. And that was quite an eye-opening moment for me. It was, of course, very sad and of grievance and everything. Yet it was this moment of like, wow, life can end so quickly. And so within a couple of days of his passing, I went to an open evening at one of the coaching schools or institutes in Dublin, Ireland, where I was living at the time, and signed up within a couple of days. So it was like an impulse, like a wave of motivation to get things going. So that's how I started with coaching, which was, wow, there were so many new things. It really allowed me to deep dive into myself, which was pretty new for me in a way. Looking at things like, what are your values? Like, who am I really? What are the things that are important in my life? I know that I spent a couple of weekends of that course crying at home, like, yeah, who the heck am I?
Was there something that happened to move you in that direction to want to actually make it your life's work?
I think maybe the fact that I was born in Zimbabwe. I've lived in 7 different countries, well, including Cambodia. Let's make it 8 now. Unexpected number 8. So living in a lot of different cultures and just seeing that there's so many people that are not living up to their potential. They're not living their dreams and they're being held back. And I was like, wow, I would like to live my potential first of all, and then help people do that as well, because the world is amazing and we need to enjoy it. yet there's so many people that don't. So if there's a specific moment, I don't think I can remember, or I can't really pinpoint one specific moment. I think it was more like a series of things. I started working very early at the age of 12. I've had, well, hundreds is maybe an overstatement, but so many different types of jobs. And I rolled into something with training, which was touching on this whole piece of potential and showing up and public speaking and all those types of skills or areas, which I was really drawn to. So I think the training piece specifically, helping people, grow in the largest kind of sense of the word.
That's really beautiful that at an early age, you actually recognize that there's a need for this, number one. And number two, I can be a vessel for helping people get there. So many people live their lives and it's many, many years go by and they don't really know what their soul's calling is. And that's okay. That's a different path for everyone. But how beautiful that you've gotten there earlier in your life. What led you to LinkedIn then?
That was also, again, the universe. So the work that I do, even to give a little bit more context, is I started with the coaching, and then a health issue came up for me, which opened me up to a lot of different modalities to see, okay, I want to be able to heal myself. I don't want to get a surgery and, have an invasive kind of procedure done on me. And so that opened me. So the coaching, first of all, opened me up to, intuition. I remember so clearly that one of the things they said, one of the teachers said was, during coaching, you're going to use your intuition a lot. And I remember thinking, well, what do you mean? Like, what is intuition and how do I even tap into that? So at that time, it was quite still an unknown. And then over the course of probably a year, I started diving into much deeper spiritual work, which is where my focus lies today. So I essentially read energy, I read souls, I read who somebody is at soul level to help them understand what their gifts are. And through energetic clearings, I help them get to that path quicker. So kind of what you were saying, there's so many people that don't know what their gifts are at an early age. This is actually a way of helping people get to those gifts earlier and quicker and getting them to take steps. But your question was?
You just left LinkedIn prior to this globe-trotting trip that you're currently on, that I'm going to have you talk more about. And how long were you at LinkedIn and what did you do there? And then what made you decide to leave?
I was living in Brazil before I was contacted by LinkedIn. So it was quite unexpected again. I got an email or an in-mail, as we call it, at LinkedIn from somebody asking me, oh, there's a certain role. Would you be interested? And I was like, oh, yeah, of course. LinkedIn, why would they contact me? Kind of like, really? But then I contacted them and went through a whole interview process, ended up getting a different role. But within months, I went from living in Brazil to living in Ireland for a role in their marketing business. So really supporting businesses to market their products and services more effectively on the professional network that LinkedIn is. So I really spent almost 5 years working within LinkedIn, helping companies think about what type of content is most effective for their businesses, how to reach the right audiences, what the right audiences are. So a range of different things, but that's mainly what I was focusing on for the Dutch market. So I was lucky enough to travel back and forth and see family and friends. So yeah, it's an amazing company. I had an amazing time, met so many beautiful people from all over the world. And at the same time, there was, towards the end, more and more this feeling of like, okay, I've stepped into the coaching piece, which I also actually did within LinkedIn. I became one of the trainers of the peer coaching program that they have, which was wonderful. Again, the training piece, helping people grow and learn.
Yeah.
So I love that. That's part of my divine soul blueprint, as the modalities that I work with call it. And so at some point I had a conversation with my partner and he was like, well, why don't we just go travel? And this was probably August last year. And I was like, well, why not? Let's do it. Without a very well-constructed plan at that point, and more like, yeah, let's do it. But you know how that goes. It's like, but it may not always happen. In this case, it did, because having your own business and working full time is challenging, even though, well, I'm super passionate about it. I was working with clients, but you only have a limited amount of time to work on your own business because you simply only have a few hours after you come home from your full-time job. So I knew that at some point I wanted to dedicate all my time to my business, to really have space, head space, mind space, space in general, to create, to be there for people, because especially with energy work, you need to give yourself a lot of rest as well, because you're tapping into deep stuff for people and you're holding space. That's one of the most important things, really allowing people to go through grief and things that have happened in past lives and so forth. So it was a very logical step. So from January, we quit our jobs end of December. From January, we were free birds, and we left in second week or so of January to travel the world with a whole itinerary, all very organized, sheets. And then you're 3 months in, and it's like, oh, the whole world is upside down, and you're in between brackets stuck, which was challenging at first, because I remember I'm a very calm person generally. But the moment I heard that we couldn't get into Australia, where part of my family lives, it was really a moment of panic for me. Like, wow, okay, what does this mean? We're on an island, a beautiful freaking tropical island, but we can't go anywhere. What are we going to do? Is there going to be enough food? Is there going to be enough hand sanitizer or like mosquito spray? Like, you start thinking about, well, toilet paper is not on the island per se, but that was one of the global things that came up for a lot of people. It was a few days of really managing ourselves, and then deciding, okay, we can't go anywhere. It doesn't make sense to just now, as a headless chicken, just start traveling and not knowing where you'll end up. So we decided to stay on this Cambodian island called Koh Rong San Lom, and we ended up staying there for 2 months. What was meant to be 4 nights turned into 8 weeks, 2 months. And now we've recently, a couple of weeks ago, moved to the mainland, because restrictions were over. In that sense, Cambodia, we're so lucky, is one of the safest places on the planet at the moment in terms of the coronavirus, no deaths and so forth. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, truly unbelievable, to be honest.
And isn't it incredible? You had all of your plans for this year. And I know a lot of us did, right? 2020, This is the year, let's plan everything. And yet your plans got shifted. And now here you are in the safest place that you could be. And I'm sure meeting some pretty amazing people along the way. I am so curious to know, in this whole little lineage that you just shared, what has life been like there? Quarantining, what was it like quarantining on an island with probably many people traveling and the locals? What was the feeling? What was the vibe? And what were some of the gifts that you believe you've received from this time?
So initially, say the first week or two, when everything started to explode globally, you felt the tension, you felt the anxiety. We saw a lot of people, trying to get flights, and they were being canceled, and trying to plan things, and in a very what's the word? Yeah, literally like an anxious, nervous way of being. Totally opposite of what you would love to experience on a tropical island. So many people left because either their governments had been organizing flights, or they just managed to get themselves back to where they were living, or where they come from originally. And after that phase passed, everyone just started to, I'm going to use the word ground, just to be and to really accept that, okay, we're here now. Borders are closed. We can't, you couldn't even get on you couldn't even get into Thailand to take a flight, from Bangkok or one of the main airports here in Asia. So the island was one of the safest places, even more safe, I would say, than the mainland in Cambodia. So yeah, a lot of gratitude is what came up for me. A lot of gratitude, a lot of calmness. I mean, you're surrounded by nature, beautiful ocean, white sands, like it's literally a paradise. And so that's a gift.
Mm-hmm.
I made my coach, she was like, well, share these moments, share the beautiful views on a daily basis. And I remember thinking, yeah, but what are people going to think? Like many of my friends and family are locked in between four walls in their home. They can't go out. And yet I did it anyways, stepping outside of my comfort zone, and brought a lot of joy to people because they're like, oh, wow, the sounds of the sea and the beautiful views, which actually helped them more than what I maybe feel jealous or frustrated or angry or something like that. So
I've been following along, and I can tell you it was a joy, and I'm so grateful that you did that. It's so easy to get stuck in, oh no, people are going to, we go so quickly to that place of judging ourselves, thinking other people will judge us, when really, that's not your spirit. And you did such a service, especially to people, I'm sure, who are living not only just quarantined in a house, let's say, who maybe they can even step outside, maybe to poor weather, but someone in an apartment who's like really, and they have an illness or something. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for stepping out of your comfort zone to do that. It's a beautiful gift.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. Yeah. So the gift of nature, that's one of them. And then meeting a lot of beautiful people, like things have happened that I could never have imagined. So I would call it the gift of opportunity. My initial thoughts were, well, I'm on a friggin' island. What opportunities am I going to find here? Like, honestly. And that shifted very quickly. I met a German girl who was giving yoga classes, and I started to really listen to my intuition, which I've tapped into much more now since my coaching course back a couple of years ago. So my intuition was really telling me, start doing guided meditations. So I went to one of her yoga classes and I asked her, would you be open to me leading a meditation, tomorrow or the day after? She's like, yeah, of course, let's do it. So I organized a meditation circle on the beach. I happened, well, not coincidentally, to have a lot of items in my bag, a sound bowl and incense and Palo Santo and candles and other things that really can support creating a sacred space to guide meditations within. And so we did our first meditation circle, not knowing really what was going to come through me. I did some training to give or to guide meditations, yet doing it with my own group was also, again, outside of my comfort zone. And it was such a beautiful moment because the meditation had finished and we were just waiting for people or it was during the meditation. And all of a sudden I saw one of the girls that I hadn't spoken to yet. She just joined. She was crying. And first my heart was like, oh, I wonder if she's okay. Maybe some emotions came up, something like that. But I just left it. I just held space. And then afterwards she said, it's my birthday. And this is like the most beautiful gift I could have wished for. And that just touched my heart so deeply and confirmed, that following intuition is so fundamental because we often don't know. I didn't know that was her birthday. I didn't know that this would be something so special for her. And that just opened up a whole space for me to do those meditations periodically, which led me to setting up women's circles, doing full moon ceremonies, all on the island. So I've expanded myself and the skills or the offerings that I can use within my business. Looking forward, I have many ideas of, holding retreats and things like that. So these have also all been such beautiful moments and events and gatherings that I'm getting chills as I say it, that I would never say never, but it would have been unlikely for me to do these things, to step into that leadership role if we had continued to travel normally, because the reality of the first 2 months of travel was very different. It's more like a checklist traveling, which is, we have all the sites. We're going to be in the city for 3-4 days, and we want to see this. So it's like getting up at 7:30, 8 in the morning, going out, walking 25 kilometers, quick lunch, quick dinner, back. And the next day it's like repeat, which is great. And it's thrilling and it's beautiful because you see so many things and really are able to like inhale the culture. Yet the balance is not there, which was what this period really gave me. So, so many gifts. So I can go on for a couple of hours.
I love this so much. And you know, Kim, we spoke before you left on your trip. And I remember I was asking, so what are you hoping to experience through this? And you were very open to whatever may come. And I think that's such a beautiful posture to live our lives in. It can be very challenging to live our lives there, but I thought that was so nice. And here you are, you've been, I don't want to say forced, but you've been just sitting in an opportunity to be able to practice all these different modalities for your business, just as a way to serve the people around you. And you're practicing. And then, as you said, your programs and your offerings are unfolding before you that maybe you hadn't even thought would be ideas before this time. And that is definitely a tremendous gift. And I know in following your journey on social media, seeing some of the things that you've been doing, like just the joy in your face, the joy in the faces around you, it is definitely everyone's feeling that same gift. You're so in your purpose right now. And I look back to the decision that you made, you and your partner too, like, let's just leave our jobs, let's go. And that's a tough cliff to kind of jump off of. And yet you again said, hello, yes, we're going to listen to our intuition. And because you did that, look what you're experiencing. What a beautiful example for all of us. I think many people are afraid to take little steps forward, and little steps can be great, but you took a giant leap and everything is showing up as it needs to. It's so beautiful. And this is really the essence of what I love to present in my offerings, in my coaching, and in my connection with people. It's soul driven. That's really, it's soul-driven wellness, it's soul-driven business, it's soul-driven living. And I feel like your work is a prayer. It's one that it connects hearts together. So I'm really grateful for you and that we've connected, but that also you've made all of these new connections with people from probably all over the world, like different countries.
Literally.
And those, who knows where those things will lead. They will take what you've taught them and bring it into their lives and their spheres. Now it feels like more than ever, we need that connection to our soul, and we need souls connecting together. It couldn't be more perfect, the timing of what you're doing. So your clients outside of Cambodia, how have you continued to serve them during this time?
So many different ways. The simple fact of stepping into some of the new, not even offerings, I've been offering so many free tools. Like I started even recording meditations and just posting them on my Instagram and on my Facebook, because especially at the start, I went into this moment of like, now I need to just create some offerings like crazy, and because I don't know what's going to happen, I need money, which I luckily put behind me after a short period of time, where I went into, okay, what really serves me, what really serves others. And that's just giving, that's just speaking up, that's just sharing my journey through simple things, from a photo to a video to newsletters, whatever kind of came up. And I'm just kind of stepping into those things again, intuitively and in flow. I tried so many different things. I've worked with so many different coaches and theories, structures, modalities, and so forth. Yet what I feel is where people resonate most at, when it comes from my heart and when I'm sharing what's going on with the most openness, open-mindedness, and just authenticity. coming from me, that's what people resonate with. Also, still continuing to work with some people. I still have people coming in for either single sessions or my coaching clients that I work with over a longer period of time. I started a women's circle literally, I think a week or two ago with the new moon. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I'm thinking of putting into place, of having something monthly or bi-weekly, because again, I was guided to do it. I didn't know exactly what it was going to be like, and it was amazing. Simply, that's what I'm learning, that holding space for me is one of the most important things. It's often not necessary, which is challenging, to prepare everything. Like, take this interview. You gave me some topics, and I could have sat there like, oh my God, what am I going to answer? I'm going to train it. And no, that does not work for me anymore. Or not always. What works most for me is to just show up and to let things flow and to just be. And that's the same with how I show up for my clients.
I love that. And I identify so much with that too. The more planned I can be sometimes, the less soul is in it, really. It's nice to have an outline, have an idea, but just to let the conversation flow. That's what's been beautiful about this conversation too. And before we leave, I just have a couple more questions. And one of them is, of all of the things that you offer to your clients, what would be the thing you feel you specialize the most in that you can help people with?
Some people may have heard of the word Akashic records, which is basically who we are at soul level. So we're made of energy, where we're energetic beings. So our body is a third dimensional part of us. Our mind is our fourth dimensional aspect, and our soul is our fifth dimensional aspect. And then we have a range of other dimensions that are part of us. So I read fifth, fourth, and third dimensional information, or if you will, you could call it like a database. I read somebody's soul database, and I can tell you, these are your gifts, this is your star seed group, and a bunch of other things which just help you understand more of who you are at soul level, because that's what you mentioned earlier. It's about living into that essence. For many people, it's about, setting up their own business. It's about, whatever it is that fits their essence most. That's what I help people understand. So it's all energy. It's like a database where I can see what has happened within somebody's lives from soul conception, if you will. So I can go back and I can see what type of choices you, Sheila, could, for example, have made, and I help you identify what were the choices that you've taken or that your soul has taken, and how they're still limiting you today. So they're causing like blockages in your energy system, which I can then clear, and with the help of an action-based program, really identifying, okay, what would be most in line, what would be most soul aligned for you to work on over the next 3 months, 6 months, whatever the exact setup of the program is with the person that I work with. It's like really giving your house this amazing spring clean. You're going to paint the whole house. You're going to buy new furniture. You're going to just have a fresh start. And that sets you up for like, oh, wow, I actually feel really good. The actions that I'm going to take are going to be so much more aligned and speed me up to living my soul essence. So that's what I would say is one of my specialties, and where I see my clients having the most success. I'm opening up the way for you energetically, and now you have to go do it.
What is the data that you collect? How do you collect the data for each individual? Yeah.
So through an attunement process, kind of like with Reiki.
Okay.
It's like a radio. I would compare it with a radio frequency. When you want to listen to, I don't know, 101 FM, you need to switch the dials and you need to go to that exact frequency. The same happens within an attunement process. So within Reiki, it's like opening up the floodgates for that energy to flow through you. So with a few data points that I get from my clients, so for example, full name at birth, date of birth, and place of birth. So similar to astrology, where you're also asked for a few details. And based on that, I do my Sherlock Holmes work. What type of contracts or things showed up in your digital, in your spiritual DNA, and how do you relate to that today? So it's a very, I would call it almost like scientific process with percentages, and it's all very grounded, very rational, which I personally love because I feel that's where my strength is. It's it's the woo-woo and the spiritual, yes, but it's also the groundedness of like, oh, a tech CEO could work with me and be like, yeah, I totally get that. So it's combining those two within the work to make things understandable and not, even though I love that and that's part of me, for many people it's too much for the part of the journey they're on right now. So it depends. With some clients I can totally geek out and be like, yeah, this energy, that energy. And with other people, you simplify it for them to understand the essential pieces that are going to help them most today. So it's, well, tailoring my work to the person, essentially.
Oh, yes. I'm all about simplifying wellness because, simplifying life, simplifying our journey, because we can overcomplicate things, especially now we have so many options. We can confuse ourselves and we just get stuck. And I think it's so fascinating to see also that your work now is a blend of all of the kind of analytical side and the spiritual side. And that was your background in working corporate and then doing coaching simultaneously. It's just, everything is exactly as it should be. That's fascinating. I'm really thrilled to hear more about the work that you're doing, and I will definitely be following along. And I would love to invite people to follow your journey. And I'm going to link below your personal Instagram for your coaching and also your travel one, because I'm going to ask you what's next for that. But I'll make sure I link your website and all of that below. If you want to just tell us, why don't you tell us what your Instagram and your the best places to follow us? You can just tell us right now too.
Perfect. Yeah, of course. So my business is called Rua Coaching. That's RUWA. So it's just at Rua Coaching on Facebook, on Instagram. ruacoaching.com is my website. And my travel Instagram, which may confuse some people, is Alan and Annie. So Alan with 2 A's and Annie with double NIE on Instagram. And that was kind of like a little bit of a joke between myself and my partner, because, your typos on your phone. So one day he texts me and he's like, oh, hey, Annie, what are you doing? And I'm like, Annie? Who's Annie? In a very funny way. So it's like, oh yeah, it was because he writes amor, which is love, in Italian or in Spanish, and it was just a typo. And the same happened to me, and I was like, hey, Alan. I'm like, we didn't even know any Annie's in Alan, but it kind of matched up really nicely because we just wanted to create an account that would be, well, I don't even actually know why, simply because we wanted something different that would not be, I suppose, directly linked with us, but more with the focuses on our travel and sharing our story. So that's how it kind of came to life. And that's where we're sharing our travel stories, beautiful photos of the places we've been to. It's been a little bit quiet over the last while, simply because both of us, we've just gone inward to use this time as a time of reflection and just rest as well.
Great. So what's next for you now? You're on mainland Cambodia.
Yeah.
Just waiting to see what opens up.
Pretty much. So at the start of the month, it was like, well, hopefully in June we can move on to a next country. But it looks like that maybe July, well, fingers crossed, we can't really tell. Within Cambodia, we're able to travel. So we're actually heading back to Siem Reap, where Angkor Wat, the whole Angkor Wat temple complex is situated. So we're just going back there for a week. And then we're kind of going to see. We were supposed to have visited a lot of different countries already, but we'll see. We're just going to adjust and be flexible. Maybe Japan will be the first country we go to next. But we're going to have to wait and see.
Well, I just love your example of being flexible and going with it, and it has served you well. And, listening to your story, I feel like it's serving us well also. So thank you so much for being with me today. And I really look forward to following along your journey and staying in touch. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your trip.
Yeah, thank you so much for setting up this podcast, for inviting me. It's an absolute honor to just have a conversation with a like-minded person and to share a bit of my story, because yes, that's part of me, inspiring people to squeeze more out of life, because it's too short already. And that's what our divine expression is really creating the most amazing life for ourselves. And when we take that responsibility, oh my God, magic happens. So create your own magic. That's really the message.
Oh, perfect. What a perfect way to end. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much for being here with me on the Connect podcast. If you like this episode, please share it with someone you think would enjoy it. Also, if you head over to iTunes to leave a review, I'd be so grateful. Let us know what your favorite parts were and what you'd like to hear more of. It will help us have a greater impact, elevating many more people to grow and succeed together. See you next time.